How many times over the last few years have you seen a game and said, who is this made for? Concord is one of the most beautiful, one of the most fantastic examples of a live service of a AAA failure that I have ever seen. It's even worse than Anthem. We'll be getting into that. But over the last few years, we've seen every AAA publisher and developer wanting to get into live service games, frothing at the mouth, feral at the opportunity to get their hands on some live service cash, line up the consumers to the content feeding trough and just start printing money. All the while putting out generic garbage games that nobody's interested in, and they don't care because they don't care about what you want. They only have their eyes on the prize, which is the money. Torching hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. It feels so good to watch them fail. Today, what I want to do is I want to talk about the failure that is Concord. I want to talk about how it failed, why it failed, but more importantly, I want to talk about this phenomenon that we're seeing in gaming right now, which is games that are seemingly made for no one. I cannot believe Sony saw this studio making this game and said, we need to buy this studio right now. Oh, Concord, where do we even start? So, Concord is a 5v5 hero shooter developed by Firewalk Studios, a game development studio that was founded by industry veterans who previously worked on games like Destiny. Firewalk was acquired by Sony Interactive Entertainment in 2021 as a part of Sony's strategy to expand its portfolio into live service games. They saw Concord as it was being developed and decided in that moment they must buy this studio.
Are you serious?
Concord, Helldivers 2, and Bungie's upcoming Marathon are all seen as pieces in Sony's effort to break into the multiplayer live service market, which has been dominated by games like Overwatch, Apex Legends, GTA 5, Fortnite, and more. Now, before Concord's announcement, there was some general interest. People were interested to see what Sony was going to do in live service. However, the moment that Sony revealed the game, all interest seemed to evaporate in an instant. In a 2023 PlayStation showcase, a trailer was shown with an uninspired yet familiar cast of characters that seemed to be completely ripped off of Guardians of the Galaxy, and the developers placed the majority of the focus on how they were going to release episodic short films on a regular basis to be able to flesh out the character backstories and the overall narrative. In a competitive shooter. When the actual gameplay was shown as well, it's about what you would expect. A $40 Overwatch knockoff with generic gameplay, abilities we've seen 1,000 times, and forgettable maps and characters. Sony conducted a closed beta test for Concord in early July, followed by an open beta test in late July. These beta tests were part of the game's lead up to the official launch, intended to gather player feedback, test server performance, and build some anticipation before the game's release. However, despite these initial testing phases, the game struggled to gain traction even before its release in August. The beta periods revealed how few people were interested in Concord, as the game struggled to break over even 2,300 concurrent players on Steam during its open beta. Critics pointed out that the game struggled to differentiate itself from other games in the genre, issues with game design and just general gameplay, character uniqueness, and just overall lack of engagement on the side of the players. Concord also found itself in the crossfire of identity politics, with many on social media lambasting the game for its poor character designs. The game's uninspired mechanics and lack of distinct identity led to its poor reception, and the game is now sitting at less than 700 concurrent, less than 400 concurrent players on Steam. Now, I want everybody to keep in mind, this game is not failing because it's bad or that it's missing content or that it's broken. No, it's because nobody's interested in it. Nobody wants to have anything to do with the game whatsoever. It's funny that games journalists today are scratching their heads wondering why people aren't playing the game and how it failed so abysmally when it's pretty damn obvious. That's a story all in for itself. But with that said, I'm just going to say the indifferent truth here. This game, the audience that it reached, the concurrent player numbers that you see for it are the realistic size of the audience for a game like this. This is the softest looking competitive shooter that I've ever seen. Those words don't even make any sense when you put them next to each other. Soft competitive? What does that even mean? When the only things that you have to differentiate yourself from the rest of the industry, from your competitors, which there are many and they are very popular, is that you're going to do narrative short films every month to flesh out your characters, that it kind of feels like Destiny and it has inclusive designs, who cares? Nobody. Nobody asked for this. It's like you go to set up an ice cream stand right next to an ice cream shop, and the ice cream shop is giving away free ice cream. No strings attached. Free ice cream. Well, I mean, there's obviously strings attached, but free ice cream, all flavors. Knock yourself out. But your ice cream stand is selling $40 ice cream cones, and they're flavorless. Any nutritional value? Do I get like superpowers from these things? Or for $40? Are you serious? No, it doesn't do anything special. It just doesn't have any flavor. I want to make this clear. This game did not fail because of go woke, go broke, or even people being tired of hero shooters. This is a company with live service brain rot, and the people who made it lacked any clear vision and failed to deliver anything unique or interesting. Look at Valve's upcoming game Deadlock. Still in early development, and since its official reveal has almost 90,000 concurrent players and is still continuing to grow. The game has what many would consider inclusive designs, but the art style is distinct, and the designs are these interesting and cool noir fantasy characters. The game isn't just Team Fortress 2 or Overwatch, it's a hybrid of hero shooters mixed with a more definitive MOBA format, delivering an entirely unique experience to a very defined audience. There are people who want to play this, and there are more people who are interested in it. With Concord specifically, I think what we're seeing is the dilution of game design. While we've seen it over the years in other games, I think this is the clearest case I've personally seen. Concord is Overwatch. Overwatch's foundation is from Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 came from Quake. The issue here is that these other games innovated in some way, improving on their predecessors to deliver a unique experience all to themselves, while Concord's biggest selling points are that it's made by people that worked on Destiny, it has inclusive character designs, and it's using short films to deliver a story every month or so. There's no improvement, no defining trait that makes this game any more different than any other game that's out there, and it just doesn't work. Nobody wants it. Concord's failure is in that it doesn't understand why players play other games or what players want out of a new experience. And by the way, this is not the last time that we're going to see this. This poor investment on the side of Sony, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a trend without understanding that trend or its audience. It's like watching a popular streamer, seeing that they make a lot of money, going out and buying a computer, high-end camera, microphone, setting up a Twitch account, going live, and wondering why you have no viewers. These AAA companies only see the end result, not the road you have to take to be able to get there, nor what the needs of today's gaming market are. Concord doesn't fill a hole in the live service industry. And when you have people that are already committed to other games, invested financially and with time into other games, you have to do something and create something that delivers a value proposition that other games don't deliver. Nobody is looking for a competitive shooter with no teeth, no identity, and monthly movies. Players are, however, looking for something that's similar to what they are already playing, but does it better, or does something entirely new, redefining the genre. This trend of superficial investments and a failure to innovate is not just a problem of Sony or Concord, it's symptomatic of a larger issue within the industry. Major companies are increasingly throwing more and more money into projects that lack a clear identity and fail to address the evolving tastes of gaming audiences. In an era in which gamers are more discerning, they do more research, they watch content creators, formulate distilled opinions before they even make a purchase, and oftentimes have countless options at their fingertips, simply mimicking what worked in the past isn't enough. The market today is saturated with titles that offer similar experiences, and without a compelling reason to switch, players are going to remain loyal to the established favorites that they play all the time already. When Sony made this move to invest more into live service games, it was in response to a market report or a few market reports that were revealing that the majority of players were still playing older live service games. But what they failed to realize is that players aren't playing those older games because there isn't anything new to play. It's because nobody has made a game that's good enough to take them away from it. To succeed, new games have to either redefine the genre or offer a fresh perspective that fills unmet needs, something that Concord and many others have failed to do. I've come to the realization that these companies just refuse to change. That's their biggest issue. They're using the same things that they used in the past that worked but don't work any longer. I think the best example we can use for this is the Xbox 360 days. When Gears of War first came out, every single company wanted to make an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter with cover mechanics. And they did, and it worked, and they made a lot of money. But the only reason it worked was because players had less access to games at the time, and there were less games that were coming out. So there was scarcity. It worked for them. They made a lot of money because of it. But now today, when players have as much access to games as they do, and on top of that, most of these are live service games, so they're invested in them either financially or their friends play them or they just put a lot of time into them and now they have skill, so like a skill investment in the game that they don't want to try to relearn a game somewhere else. Well, now you have to make something that really genuinely competes and does something all on its own. And if you don't, they're not going to come play your game. If you want to make the next Fortnite and you start today, well, who's to say by the time that Fortnite comes out that everybody's not playing a Path of Exile extraction shooter mixed with Mario Kart? Somebody write that down. EA, Activision, Ubisoft, Blizzard, Xbox, Sony, all of these companies used to be innovators within the industry. But over time, they've now just become companies that are remastering, rehashing, reusing ideas over and over while trend chasing, and the rest of the industry is just running laps around them. That's what the kind of failure that Concord is. Keep in mind, they started developing Concord right after Overwatch released. So they literally saw that game and said, let's make that. What are you thinking? What's even worse than this is the fact that these companies have no idea who they're selling to. They're being misled by data. And I want to talk about that. Concord is a bigger failure than Anthem. Let that sink in. Sony saw this game in development and decided that it needed to be theirs and bought the studio for an undisclosed amount of money, likely hundreds of millions of dollars. Then the game was in development for 8 years, so they spent another $100 million developing it. And now they're left with, as of recording this video, less than 400 players playing the game on Steam. Anthem, one of the biggest gaming disasters in gaming history, sold over 5 million copies, and EA spent $100 million to develop it. Adjust for inflation, and they spent even more, but still made their money back. How does this happen? Why does this happen? How could Sony, a cornerstone of the gaming industry, see a game like Concord and think it's a sound investment? Think that it's the future of live service? Moreover, how could developers of this game come to believe that this game was worth making in the first place? That a generic ripoff of Overwatch with boring and ugly character designs was worth 8 years of development and the time of Bungie veterans? Well, it's simple. Social media. All right, now try to follow me here. I think that we are in a moment in time in which these studios are doing their market research based off of social media. They catch trends, discussions, and more, distill it into what they believe is the current gaming audience, and then they make a game based off that research. They look at the games that people are playing, and then they look at the people that are playing those games, what they're interested in, what they talk about, how they identify, and they try to make a game based off that audience. It's a core principle of marketing, finding a target audience, understanding them, and delivering a product or service to the broader section of that audience. However, what many of them fail to realize is that people that are on social media are not the people that they are in real life. While it's true social media drives engagement, it's not indicative of consumer behavior. If consumers did buy based on what they said on social media, then nobody would be buying gasoline, fast food would be going out of business, and none of us would be using cell phones or anything made in third world countries. But that's not what happens. This disconnect between social media personas and actual consumer behavior is a critical flaw in the approach that many of these game developers are taking today. The idea that you can capture the essence of a successful game by analyzing online discussions and trends is fundamentally misguided. Social media platforms amplify certain voices and trends, often giving a skewed perspective on what the broader community actually values. What gets retweeted or goes viral doesn't necessarily translate into purchasing decisions or long-term engagement. For Concord, it seems like the development team fell into this trap of designing a game based on distorted signals. The characters, aesthetics, and the gameplay mechanics all feel like they were chosen to appeal to a trend on social media rather than what players genuinely wanted. The result is a game that released 8 years too late, lacked depth, originality, and most importantly, a true connection to an audience that it was supposed to serve. This failure highlights a growing issue within the games industry, the over-reliance on data-driven decisions devoid of any creative insight. Data can be incredibly powerful. It can be the best tool you can use to inform and support innovative ideas, but when it becomes the sole driver for creative decisions, it can lead to products that feel manufactured, pandering, soulless, and ultimately unappealing. Gamers today are more discerning than ever, and they can see when a game is being marketed and designed by a committee rather than a passionate creative vision. Concord is not a game of vision, and the industry needs to open its eyes. It's crazy to think that Concord started its development directly following the release of Overwatch, meaning that they saw the game and said, we're going to make a game just like that. That was the first game that the studio wanted to make. And even with all the changes in the industry, all the different games that we saw come out over the time since Overwatch's release and different popular trends in live service, they didn't think to adapt any of those things or change their game in a meaningful way. What did they expect the reception to be when you release something that's already out there in the first place? You have a message. They're delivering a message. That's we have to keep that in mind. There's a lot of games that do that now. A lot of games have a message to deliver. Funny thing is that players aren't looking to buy messages. They're looking to buy games. That's not to say that you can't deliver a message. Great games are an awesome vehicle to be able to deliver a meaningful and impactful message, but you got to make a great game first. Something new, something different, something that entices players to want to buy it and play it and enjoy it, because that's the most important thing, is that they have to buy it and they also have to enjoy it. Otherwise, your message is never going to get across. The other thing is that, I didn't really bring up anything about the character designs. I don't really think it's like a worthwhile discussion, to be honest. Like, I get it. I understand why people wouldn't want to play it because of how the characters look. One thing I will say with that is that why is it that every single time I see a game that wants to do inclusive character designs, that they are wholly uninspired, tokenized, and hideous? Like, if I was being represented by a game like this, I would be offended. How is it that a game like Baldur's Gate 3 can come out, take it all 100 steps forward, full, entire identity, expression, you can bang a bear. Game does incredible. Why? Awesome game. Incredible game. Incredible game. It takes the industry and your message 100 steps forward, only for every single other game to try to co-opt the same thing and take it 100 steps back every single time. It's embarrassing, is what it is. It's embarrassing. It's hilarious to me that games journalists are looking at this, baffled as to why this game failed. How could it fail? Guys, we need to give this game a chance, man. Got to give it a chance. But it's so funny because then I come to realize, especially after reading a lot of their articles over time, that they're falling into the exact same hole that the games industry is. That they're paying too much attention to social media, and they think that social media actually dictates what people do in real life. And it doesn't. It doesn't. It does not dictate consumer behavior. It might drive up attention around a game, but that doesn't necessarily translate to sales. And what people say and what people do online also isn't a huge indicator of whether or not they're going to be interested in buying a product. It's just crazy that people would think otherwise. Everybody knows that there are a completely different person on the internet. What is going on? Everybody just completely lost common sense? I say this like I want them to learn, but I don't, because it's like the freest content ever, and I love it. But yeah, this is a big one, man. This is gonna hurt. And to be honest with you, this actually might be the lesson that the industry itself needed to see. A game like this, with that much money spent into it, failing this hard. We haven't seen a AAA game fail this hard in a long, long time. I don't think I've ever seen a game fail this bad. This might be the lesson that turns them around and goes, you know what? Maybe we should just cool our jets. Especially because, think about it like this. These live service games are a gamble. They're a massive gamble. You don't know if it's going to do well. You don't know if it's going to be worth the investment in the first place. Yeah, you can make a ton of money off of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's actually going to work out, or that people are even going to stick with it in the first place. Yet all these companies want to keep gambling on it. They're like crypto bros. It's crazy. Hopefully they learn a lesson and they just go back to realizing that, players just want high quality, meaningful experiences. Look at the games that have blown up over the last few years. They are not the games that you would expect to do so, outside of maybe Hogwarts Legacy. Just a few years ago, it was like 5 years ago or so now, like EA came out and they were the ones that were saying nobody's interested in single player games anymore. So that's the reason why they wanted to walk away from single player games. Yet we see Black Myth Wukong explode, Baldur's Gate 3 exploded, Palworld exploded. It's obvious that these companies have no idea what players want, and they're just running off of bad information and bad talent. Simple as that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Tell me where you think the industry is failing. Tell me if you guys are checking out Deadfall. I actually got to play it a little bit. It's actually a lot of fun. Deadfall. Deadlock is what it was. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. If you guys want to watch me on Twitch, talk about gaming news and whatever else, play video games, follow me on Twitch. Outside of that, I will check you guys next time. Peace.
Family, 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 family.